In this lesson, we're going to be talking about powers. Hopefully, a power is something that you have already studied and have already had experience with in your prior math courses. So I'm hoping that this lesson will be just a quick review for you. If not, then hopefully this will prepare you for the rest of our unit. So a power is when you have a number and you will see another smaller number written above it. Okay, so just so that it looks more familiar to you, an example of a power would be 2 squared. Okay, so we have a number and then we have a smaller number raised above it. Now, you might also be working with variables instead of just numbers, but what we need to know is that this number is called the base and this number or variable is called the exponent. And the entire reason that we have powers is because it's a way to represent repeated multiplication. If we need to repeatedly multiply one number, this is a shorter way of writing it. So the base is the number that's being multiplied, and the exponent tells you how many times to multiply that base by itself. So this will all make sense as we look at a few examples. For example 1, we're going to look at the power 5 to the second power. So it can be read as 5 to the second power. It may also be read as 5 squared. So the exponent 2 can be read as the second power or squared. So again, 5, and this is just to reiterate what we just talked about, 5 is the base and 2 is the exponent. So the exponent tells us how many times to multiply the base by itself. So this means that I'm going to multiply the number 5 times itself 2 times. Okay, so the base is the number that you're multiplying. The exponent tells you how many times to multiply that particular base. So 5 times 5 is 25, which means that 5 to the second power, or 5 squared, is also 25. Okay, so 5 squared is another way of writing 5 times 5. Okay, so let's look at our next set of examples. And these examples have the negative in front of them. And so this is the part that gets a little tricky. So that's why I want to focus on this a little more. So here we see the negative in front of these numbers, in front of the bases of these numbers. And so you might think to yourself that this means negative 3 to the fourth power and negative 2 to the second power. And although many people do read it that way, this is not really negative 3. In this particular instance, this means the negative is kind of separate. This negative stands for the opposite. So this means the opposite of 3 to the fourth power. So they're kind of separate. So if I were to write this, I would write my negative sign, the opposite, of 3 to the fourth power means I'm going to multiply 3 4 times. And so if I first just figure out what 3 to the fourth power is, 3 to the fourth, 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. And 27 times 3 is 81. Another way to think of this that I like to do is 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 9 is 81. So our answer to 3 to the fourth is 81, but then we have to take the opposite, which makes it negative because of the negative out here. So we're taking the opposite of 3 to the fourth, and that makes it negative 81. So here we have negative 2 squared. So again, this does not mean negative 2 squared. It means the opposite of 2 squared. So the opposite of 2 times 2, so 2 times 2 is 4. The opposite of 4 is negative 4. And then I'd like you to go ahead and try this last one and hit the I'm ready button when you've finished.